Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel, and today we have a double header. We have the brand new Civivi Baby Banter fixed blade and the brand new Sencut Praktisk. We're going to get started with the Baby Banter fixed blade first. I'll try to put a timestamp to this part of the video if you're not interested in watching this one. So what we have here is essentially a fixed blade version of the Baby Banter. Comes with a fold over taco style kydex sheath, and being that this is an excellent size and weight for net carry, I'm glad that they put the two eyelets right here. That way it'll sit flat up against your chest, and they ship with the little fold over kydex belt loop orientated right here. So if you want to carry this on your belt, you could do that with that. Personally, I'd rather clip it to the pocket, and that's how I've been carrying this one with I think it's a 2x2 ulti clip, or it's a smaller ulti clip. Fits perfect on those first two. After this video, I think I'm going to take it and put it on these two right here. That way it's easier to get my finger in there, because right now I'm grabbing the lanyard and the top of that, which is not terrible or anything, but I think it'd be a lot easier and still don't have a whole lot sticking out of the pocket. As you can see, it carries really well. Even in these lightweight shorts, I don't even feel it. All you can see is the lanyard sticking out pretty much, and I've been just grabbing the lanyard and then the push-off point and then popping it out like that. But it's so lightweight, I hardly know it's even in the pocket. Sure, it'd feel the same if you net carried it. Holds it in there nicely, no rattle. This particular version comes with this lanyard tied to it. You have a nice little push-off right there and nice positive snap there. Like I said, no rattle. So here is the knife. It's a tiny guy coming in at 4.99 inches long with a 2.03 inch blade. And I measured the blade length from the plunge grind to the tip. So that's where I'm getting the 2.03 inches. Your grip area from where that jimping stops right there to where this ramps up right here. It's coming in at 2.8 inches. And one thing I noticed right away whenever I got this one, and one difference I noticed right away whenever I got this out of the box, is the grind. Because on the regular Baby Banter, you can see you have a flat up there in the front. Hopefully you can see that. This one is a full flat grind. Love that. This one is also a Nitro V stainless steel. Glad they kept it with Nitro V. And another difference between this one and the folder is your jimping. You can see you have a very small row of jimping on the folder. This one, they extended it here, plus put a second row toward that tip. I'll be honest, with this size knife, I wouldn't have been mad if they would have put this jimping all the way to that tip, or at least from here to the end of where they did right there, because the one by the tip is great if you're either trying to poke into something and you don't want to go too deep, or if you're trying to use that belly for a finesse cut. But whenever you're going to push down into something, like kind of like a push cut this way, I would have loved to have some jimping right behind that. That's just where my finger lands in the pinch grip. You got the same 0.12 inch blade stock thickness, and this one is ground nice and thin, coming in at around 12 thousandths behind the edge. The first piece of cardboard I cut, I was like, wow. A noticeable difference, and that's not usually that common, but a noticeable difference between the folder and the fixed blade because of that full flat grind. You got enough usable blade to break down a box. I mean, you can see, hopefully I got that up right now, that I didn't really struggle getting through the boxes. Only problem with doing the box cutting in a saber grip is you're going to come in contact with your thumb. So I tried to stay in the hammer grip as much as I could. Now, of course, you wouldn't want to try to tackle a TV box, for instance, that's 6 feet long or something, because you don't have a whole bunch of blade there. This is a perfect knife to make a quick cut if you need to make a feather stick, if you need to get into a package, pretty much all your light duty EDC tasks. And, you know, to be 100% honest, I'm sure most of us could get everything that we do on a day-to-day basis done with this knife, if we're honest with ourselves. Now, I get some people have jobs where, you know, they may use a knife hard, like I used to whenever I worked in the plant. I used to destroy knives, but I no longer do that anymore. So this could get majority of the stuff I have to do on a day-to-day basis here at my house. This is one of the better edges I've gotten from Civivi. This year, it seems like they've honed in on their sharpening, because before this year, I was getting a lot of over-polished edges and they just didn't have any bite to them. I mean, they were decently sharp, but they just weren't biting into the more abrasive materials. Whenever I started doing the wood shaving to test the ergos, that's when I noticed, I was like, man, I don't understand why I'm not getting a 4-finger grip on this. It's like a 3.5 You know, these three fit, and then I'm grabbing a hold of that lanyard because I'm like, I can get a full 4-finger grip on the Baby Banter folder. And I don't know why they did this. It makes no sense, but they made it even smaller. Why? If they would have kept it the exact same size, I think that would have been excellent. But I mean, you can see the size difference, and all that difference is in the handle. Let's see. You have pretty much the identical blade there, or cutting edge, but for some odd reason, being this folder's already small, they decided to shrink it up on a fixed blade. I know that Civivi loves to do those super tiny, like they did with the Elementum. Just bummed me out. Now, that said, you know, unless you're going to be doing some super heavy push cuts, I did not find it to be that difficult. You know, in the hammer grip, I can make some fine feather sticks in a pinch, but I would have definitely loved to see it at least the same size as the folder, or thicken up these micarta scales some so it fills out the hand even better. These scales are coming in at 0.395, and you know, your average scale thickness is about 0.5. So I would have loved to see it at least 0.5. It'd have been great to see it at like 0.6, 0.7, even 0.8 contoured at that. No real hot spots or anything, but I was bearing down on this handle just so the knife didn't want to turn in my hand because I was pushing hard. And I could use the saber grip and get a lot more stability, but once again, your thumb's in the way. I don't want to get a piece of that wood jammed into my finger or anything, so I stayed in the hammer grip for the most of that cutting. So then once we got done testing the ergos, we went and do our normal stuff. I went and did the sisal rope cutting. That's where I could tell how much bite this edge had to it. I was very impressed. Since this came with a screaming sharp edge and it's super thin behind the edge, when I did the tip down on the leather, this thing was a little scalpel, and I could get my finger on that jimping to help put some pressure through it. And everything I did after that, nothing gave it any troubles whatsoever. This is the version, I guess, a blasted, light tumbled and blasted blade. On this particular version, the 9-coated version, you have this dark, like a forest green micarta with the red lanyard. And it almost feels like, now that I'm looking at it through the camera, it looks like they sandblasted the micarta because it is very, very grippy, which is something I want. They made it look like the folder by still putting the Civivi pivot logo there. T8 construction, bolt on. Of course, this thing weighs absolutely nothing. Quick size, you got to remember I have the ultra clip on there, but it's 88.6 grams or 3.125 ounces. So probably a little bit lighter without the metal clip. For size comparisons, I didn't have a whole lot, but the QSP Canary neck knife is a little bit longer. However, you have more grip area on the Baby Banter. And the Griffin Co. Scout Medic is just a hair shorter. You have a little less handle area than the Scout Medic. And last, here it is next to the Ontario Rat Model 2 and the TKL Piranha. Both of those are a good bit bigger. However, you have more grip area than the Piranha. Nitpicks, complaints, we talked about most of them. I wouldn't have minded if they would have brought this jimping all the way to meet this one as well. I would have definitely loved to see this fixed blade the same exact size as the Baby Banter, if not even a hair bigger. And I would love to see a regular size Banter EDC fixed blade. That would be fantastic, Civivi. And last, even if not the longer handle, the thicker scales would have been nice as well. All that said, the micarta version comes in at $59.50. They also have a black washed blade version with black G10 and blue liners for $57.80. I still really enjoyed it, and I will continue to carry it, even though I did have some minor gripes about the knife. It slices very well. It was a fun one to use, and it's a very easy one to carry. If any of you are interested in picking up a Baby Banter fixed blade, I will have it linked down in the description. This is the new Sencut Praktisk, and I was looking at it and I was like, you know, what does that remind me of? In my opinion, it's basically a liner lock version of the Serene. They're the exact same size, very similar overall shape. Got pretty much identical belly there. However, I do like the fact of having a liner lock over a button lock. However, I like the full flat grind more than the flat on this one. They have 3 different variations if you don't like the banana yellow scales or the mustard yellow scales. You can also get it with black G10 with a satin blade, or you can get it with a black blade and green micarta. It's going to cost $1.80 extra for the micarta variant. The G10 ones come in at 39 bucks. I think that is fantastic. You got a nice full-size knife here. I call it a large GDC knife at 8.27 inches long. It has a 3.62 inch drop point blade of 9CR 18 MOV stainless steel. You got a small row of effective jimping right there. They could have brought it out a little bit further. Not something I really care about, but I know some people do. Look at that needle-like tip there. Excellent for piercing. And if you need to do some drag cuts, you could. Even though the amount of belly on this one, I would just use the belly to do my drag cuts. That would be the easier way to do it. This one has a satin finish on it. You have a high flat grind that comes down nice and thin to around 13 thousandths behind the edge. And this thing performed outstanding. Now, I can't recall how the Serene performed. I know it performed really good. Seems like every knife that Sencut sends me are next level sharp. For the longest time, they were always sharper than the Civivi knives that I would get. Now, that's kind of changed this year. It seems like the Civivis are just the same now as far as being sharp and having bites to that edge. And even though 9CR isn't a super steel or anything, I think at $39 it's more than acceptable. It holds a respectable edge. It's fairly tough, and it's a pretty good corrosion resistant steel. It drops back very easily, and it sharpens up very easily. It can take a pretty darn keen edge. Whenever I sharpen mine up, I usually just leave a toothy edge on it to about 600 grit, and then I strop it with 12 micron, and that's been my best results that I found with this steel. But being that you have that nice usable blade length there, everything I did when I did the cardboard cutting, this thing went through it like a lightsaber. And of course, being that you have a little bit more belly on this drop point because of the higher tip, all the cutting on a flat cutting surface is going to be a breeze, because you can use that belly to either do a slicing motion cut, a push cut, a pull cut. And just as I expected, this one sliced everything that I put in front of it extremely well. It did not slow down at all toward the end. Now, I'm sure the edge isn't near as sharp as it was whenever I first got it, but I can promise you I could at least drop it back to where it was slicing, well through phone book paper. Let me see. There's no damage to the edge at all. That's what I like to see. And for the most part, this one was pretty darn comfortable. I did notice whenever I was in the hammer grip and I was doing the wood shaving, that where my hand lands, because they put a big choil in the front right there, my birdie finger is landing on the 2 humps. The only way around it for me, I kind of choke back a little bit. And the only problem with choking back like that, you can't get as much force into something because, it's pulling back on you. When you're closer, you got more control over the blade and you're closer to that edge. The action on this knife is excellent. You got a flipper and you got dual thumb studs. The flipping action, of course, outstanding. Riding on ceramic bearings with the ceramic detent ball. Pretty drop shut action and very snappy action. A well-tuned detent for both actions, which is not the easiest thing to do. You can slow roll it if you want. You can reverse flick it if you want. You can light switch it or push button it. It likes it all. I don't think I have any knives in this mustard colored G10. The only problem with these light colors like this, like white, say like a light blue G10 or anything that's not dark, like your blacks and grays, it's going to get dirty rather quickly. Now, I don't know, you can still kind of see it, but all this area up here was like black from my gloves because the peel ply on this has a really good texture, but it's kind of deep. So it was trapping all the dirt from my gloves, and it was pretty filthy looking. Yep, see, my dog said when he grabbed it, same thing to him. I do like the texture on here. It's grippy without being uncomfortable. What do y'all think about the banana yellow or the mustard yellow G10. Not really my cup of tea, but it is nice every now and again not to have just another black scaled knife. You have T8 construction throughout. Your G10 is shadow boxed with the liners, just meaning that the liners sit a little proud of the G10 scales, but they are nice and rounded, so no problems whatsoever there. You have a lanyard hole in your liners, and then the G10 is cut out with the chamfer around it. You have tip up left or right-handed carry on the pocket clip. Deep carry sits pretty much all the way down in there, and they did a good job with keeping that pocket clip pretty much in the center of the scales. Perfect amount of ramp, perfect springiness to it. They did not inset the clip into the G10, however, it is rounded up there in the front, and they have countersunk those screws. So I have never had anything get hung up, like my seam of my pants have never gotten hung up on there. The only T6 screws you have are for the pocket clip. I'm fine with that. I don't have to take the pocket clip off to take apart the knife. Easy access to those thumb studs on the left and right side. And this one's coming in at 119 grams or 4.19 ounces. The lockup on my knife is sitting at around 40 to 50% or so. Access to the lock bar, I'm just going to say it's okay because it does come down a little bit further. You do have texture, but for me, if I'm not using this portion of my thumb, it's not comfortable for me to disengage it with the tip of my thumb. That's why I don't like the texture like that, or the jimps almost. I would rather just a chamfer there. But as you can see, they do semi-polish those liners, so it would be pretty slick. Now I can get my thumb in there as long as I grab it high, but it's just a lot more comfortable to do with the inside of my thumb. The lockup on this one, no movement up or down, none left or right. Nice and tight lockup. Quick size comparisons. It's identical in length to the Sencut Serene, and it's just a hair longer than the Sencut Borzum. And it's a little bit shorter than the Ontario Rat 1, and it's a good bit bigger than the Rat 2. Now for my nitpicks and complaints. My biggest nitpick on this one is the sharpening choil. You may get a sharpening or two out of it. It's going to be very hard to tell, but it looks like that plunge grind comes to at least about right there. So, yeah, you should have a couple sharpenings. But I would have much rather them give us a better sharpening tool, maybe go up and over. Clip's not inset into the G10, not that big of a deal in my opinion. I don't love the color, and I wish it had a little bit more access to that lock bar or put a chamfer instead of this texture. It's just uncomfortable for me. But like I said, I can just use this portion. That's how I've gotten so used to doing it like that now. I do that second nature. So my final thoughts on this one, at $39, if you don't already own the Serene, or you own the Serene and you don't like button locks like me, then yeah, I think it's a great option. Like I said, they have a black G10 in satin, and then you have a green micarta with a black wash blade version. I think you're getting a lot for your money. If you're looking for a nice full-size knife, great action, great slicer. So just like I said earlier, if you're interested in either one of these, they will both be linked down in the description. They will be an affiliate link. So if you want to help support what I do here on this channel, helps me pay for that testing material that y'all just saw a little while ago, I can't thank you enough. If not, no big deal. All right, guys and girls, I hope everyone else having an absolute amazing day. Remember, keep them blades sharp, smile more, and pick up, poop, poop.